Well, my stroke story started in 2012, April 2012, when I was visiting Brisbane for about 3 days. And I'd just flown in, from Singapore, I had a couple of days up there, and then played golf with my dad. It was quite warm, and a few friends of his. And then I arranged to meet up with about 6 or 7 of my old schoolmates at a restaurant in Brisbane, just to catch up. We got there about 6:30 or so. And it was about 8:30 at night, and we'd had a steak, and it was my third light beer, and we were just about to go home, and I took a sip of beer as a friend of mine was telling a story, and it was quite funny. And as I took my sip of beer, the punchline came through, and all of a sudden it went down the wrong way, and I started having a laughing, choking, coughing fit, like we've all done like 100 times, and everybody thought it was quite funny, and oh, Michael's having it, and then I couldn't see, and I thought it was just like a sort of dizziness, lack of oxygen, tiredness, jet lag, that sort of thing. I remember sitting down the end of the table and just my head in my hands, trying to almost shake my head to try and get my focus back, because I could see light but no focus on anything. And then one of my friends to the right just asked me, you all right? And I said, I don't think so. And then the critical question for me came, do you want us to call an ambulance? And the correct response, of course, came from me, which was yes. Now, I mean, how many times you're sitting there with old mates who you played rugby with, a bit knock around, that sort of thing, and they just say, oh, toughen up, Lynagh, have another beer and you'll be right, mate. But no, we did the right thing, and the ambulance arrived about 15 minutes later. We were very lucky that it was close by, and I was very lucky that I was in Brisbane and amongst friends. So then I went to hospital and was diagnosed as a stroke after MRIs and things like that, which really surprised me. I knew nothing about stroke. And I remember my father, who's a psychologist who does know a lot about stroke and knows about brains and brain injury and that sort of thing. And I remember him telling me later, much later, when I got better, that he was sitting in the ICU room waiting for me to come back from an MRI. And he was sitting in there, and in the little room there where they put up x-rays and the scans and that sort of thing, he just remembered looking in there and he saw this picture of a brain, and it was quite a big trauma in there, about the size of my fist in the back of the right. And he said, oh my God, that poor guy, he's probably dead, and then the doctor came in and said, Ian, that's my dad, come in here. And it was a picture of my brain. So he was, he was pretty emotional at the time. And but I was in. They were going to operate on me because there was quite a lot of swelling in the back right of my brain here, and it was very dangerously close to the spinal column, really close, and it was getting bigger. And if it touches that, you're in big trouble. So normally they operate on that straight away, and we decided yes, and I was functioning really, really well. I knew where I was talking, my hands were working, my legs were working, everything was fine except my sight and massive sore head. I remember the doctor coming in and I thought, this is it, we're getting ready to go, and it's quite a major operation. They tend to take the back of your head off and try and reduce the swelling that way, but the doctor came in and sat on the end of the bed and just said, I'm not going to operate on you. And he said, no, you're functioning too well. I'd never forgive myself if something went wrong. So we're going to do it, we're going to reduce the swelling in another way, which was quite tough, but it took a little while, but it worked. And then I think, after that sort of 3 or 4 day period in intensive care, once I started to come out the other way and the swelling started to reduce, I think being relatively young and fit, and also from many years of playing sport, knowing your body pretty well, I recovered physically pretty quickly after that. And I ended up leaving hospital about 2 weeks after it happened. But then there was a long sort of rehabilitation period where a lot of sleep and just gradual exercise, that sort of thing. But I was very, very lucky in the sense that I was unaffected, and the doctors to this day don't know why. Just very, very lucky.